وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله في محكم كتابه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله وباليوم الآخر وما هم بمؤمنين يخادعون الله والذين آمنوا وما يخدعون إلا أنفسهم وما يشعرون في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا ولهم عذاب أليم بما كانوا يكذبون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. I see that the rain is a very good deterrent. A lot of people don't want to come because of the rain. It makes sense, I don't blame them. Yesterday we spoke about the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about that book in which there is no doubt in it. It is a guide to those that are pious. It is a guide to those that are noble. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says their characteristics for those people of Iman is that they believe in the ghaib, they believe in the unseen, and they do their prayers, and they give alms, they give zakat from whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted them. And in the day of judgment they are certain. Over here we see that human beings, they have a certain amount of knowledge that they can get. Sometimes we said yesterday that we might have just a suspicion, or we might have a doubt. And the highest amount of knowledge that we can get as human beings is when we're certain of something. When you are certain that, for example, your house is 2 blocks away from here. You might be wrong. However, you cannot blame yourself for not following your certainty. Because the certainty is the most amount of knowledge that you can get. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as long as you are certain of something, you have to follow it. It doesn't matter if you're wrong or right, because this is the knowledge that you have. And the Imams and the Prophets are those that always gain certainty. And if they don't have certainty, they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gain that certainty. Because if you add doubt in any message that you are trying to give, it puts you on a very shaky ground. So it's very important that you know what you are spreading. If you are not certain yourself, you cannot ask other people to join you onto this journey. So those people, they have complete certainty in the day of judgment. And when you have complete certainty in the day of judgment, it becomes almost impossible for you to commit any sin. This is why Surah Al-Kahf says, كَلَّا لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عِلْمَ الْيَقِينِ. Surely if you knew the knowledge of certainty, لَتَرَوُنَّ الْجَحِيمِ. You will see hellfire. Now a lot of people, when it comes to asma, they don't understand. They think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a person impossible to commit a sin. That means he's not capable of committing a sin. The Imams are more than capable of committing a sin. However, they don't. Why? Because of the knowledge. The Quran says, surely if you know the knowledge of certainty, you will see hellfire. If you see hellfire, how many sins are you going to make? Majority of the sins we make is because we decided to close our eyes and not to see, then you commit the sin. But if you're always seeing it in front of you, you will never do it. When you know the consequences of your action and you can see the consequences of your actions, you will never commit anything that has bad consequences. Usually majority of our mistakes come from the fact that we decide to ignore. We decide not to see. So this is one group of people. They are full of iman. It's a very, very strong amount of knowledge. And it is a knowledge that is praiseworthy. And the actions are praiseworthy. Now the second group of people, they're also very firm in their faith. However, it's very negative. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Surely those that disbelieve. سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. Regardless, if you were to warn them or not warn them, they will never believe. They took a stance that they are against the truth. Now over here they are very harsh disbelievers. Now the word kafaru or kafir, what is the opposite of kafir? This is very, very interesting. And a lot of people think that the opposite of kafir is Muslim. And that's not the case. In the Quran, in Surah Al-Insan, it says, إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. We have decided to show you the path. Either you are grateful, thankful, or you are kafir. So the opposite of kufr is ungratefulness. When a person absolutely does not appreciate the fact that he's living, the fact that there are people that have bounties upon him, there is somebody that's more bountiful on him. Be it his parents, be it his community, be it the fact that the technology that's around him, the nature that's around him, completely self-centered, cares only about himself and ungrateful. This person is considered kafir. And these people, they took a full stance against the truth, regardless of what it is, because their nature is that of ungratefulness. Imagine if you've ever meet a very ungrateful person. It's probably not pleasant to be around. And however, this stance over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these people don't even waste their time with them. خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sealed their hearts. وَعَلَى سَمْعِهِمْ, and their ears. وَعَلَى أَبْصَارِهِمْ, and their eyes. He put a blur on all of these senses. And they will get a harsh punishment. Now the question is, why will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they decide to take a stance, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helping them to be even more misguided? What's the purpose of that? If the person is ungrateful, let him be ungrateful. He ends up saying, why is Allah being a partner in his ungratefulness? It's a very interesting story. Bani Israel, when Prophet Musa came down from the mountain and he saw them worshipping the cattle, Prophet Musa went and he complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, my people have done this and done this and done this, but oh Allah, I have a question. He said, they started worshipping it, and this cow, this golden calf, started to make a noise. It started to talk. Where did this noise come from? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I put that noise in there. He says, what? He said, they decided that they want to be misguided, so I helped them. That's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَهْدِ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides who He wants. And He misguides who He wants. It's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be guided or wants you to be misguided. If you want to be guided, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you in your guidance. If you want to be misguided, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you in your misguidance. Which way do you want? You choose the way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be there with you. You decide to take a force of misguidance, you can go there. You want to be guided, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you also. This is why Allah is the guide. One of His names is that He's the guide, Al-Hadi. One of His names is Al-Mudhil, the misguider. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also misguides, depending on the path that you want. You want to be misguided, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you all the ways of misguidance. They're available for you. But who chooses? You choose. You choose which way you want to go. This is why the Quran says, وَزَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُم. The shaitan makes their actions beautiful. In the beginning, it looks, oh, I'll never do this, I'll never do this. Take one step, take one step, take one step. Then, all of a sudden, the right and the wrong, they get mixed up together. So these are the two forms of believers. The people that are certain in the day of judgment, and the people that are certain, they're very, very ungrateful, they are certain to have a stance against the truth. Those are the two forms of people. The good thing about these two forms of people is that their stance is clear. It means you know where he stands. This person, he stands with there is no God but God and Muhammad is His messenger, and he believes in the day of judgment, and this person stands against it. For example, in the Quran it says, تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبٍ وَتَبٍ. Abu Lahab is going to go to hell for sure. Now over here, this is one of the miracles in the Quran, just in this verse. Because to easily falsify the message of Islam, all that needed to be done after the revelation of this verse is for Abu Lahab to become Muslim. Because the Quran promises hellfire to Abu Lahab. All Abu Lahab had to do was go, even if he was lying, say, hey, I'm Muslim, and your Quran is wrong. But even the kufr was so much that they couldn't even get to that point. So these two people, these two groups of people, their stances are very clear. Then there's another group, and this is the hardest group to deal with, right? It says women and nas, and from the people, right? They say that they believe in Allah and in the Day of Judgment, but they are not truly believers. They try to fool Allah and those that believe, and they don't fool except themselves. This type of personality is not strong enough to take a stance against the truth. And it's not good enough to take a stance towards the truth. And they don't know where they stand. It's a very, very shaky personality. And it's a personality of hypocrisy. And the more you look into the verses of hypocrisy in the Quran, what's very interesting is that majority of the verses of hypocrisy were actually Meccan verses. It's verses that were sent down in Mecca. Now, based on the history that we know, Prophet Muhammad, he came Mecca, you only had 13, 14, 15 followers. If you only have 13, 14, 15 followers, there's no room for hypocrisy there. Hypocrisy comes when you're strong and the person doesn't know what to do. That's when the hypocrite is formed. If Islam was truly that weak in Mecca, then there is no meaning for hypocrisy at the time. But when we see that the movement of hypocrisy started in Mecca, it means that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, during the time of his message was very powerful. And it gained a lot of traction. The more I think about it, for example, in the movie The Message, when they went to Prophet Muhammad and they told him, if you want us to give you the keys to the Kaaba, we'll give it to you. If you want to be king, we'll make you king. Just leave this message. And then the Prophet said famously, if you put the sun on my right hand and you put the moon on my left hand, I will not leave this message. Just one big question mark over here. If you look at the personality, for example, of Abu Sufyan and Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, with what purpose, with what reason would they go to a person that is supposedly, number one, as far as class is concerned, he's very low. As far as money is concerned, he doesn't have that much. As far as status is concerned, he's not that high status. They would go down and be like, hey, we're going to give you everything that you want. Because if you look at these type of personalities, throughout Islam, what do? For example, let's say a person that was raised in this type of personality, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. What did he do, for example, with Malik al-Ashtar? Yeah, send poison and kill him. What did he do with Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr? Kill him. Right? What did he do with majority of the people? Assassinations. This is the type of way they deal with their enemies. Especially if they think that this person is weak. If they think he's weak, they are not a compromising type of personality. So now we have all of these hypocrites, and we see that Abu Sufyan comes in and says, I'm going to make you a king and give you all the money in the world. That means Prophet Muhammad in the time of Mecca, he had a power. And he had a amount of followers that Abu Sufyan and Abu Jahl and the people of Quraysh recognized that they cannot defeat this person. So from the beginning, our seerah, which was written down 300, 400 years after the Prophet passed away, is very, very different than the Quranic seerah. Quran says a story that's completely different. And this is something that we have to always recognize. Who is our prophet? Aside from the books of hadith that we inherited. You know, sometimes like Mr. Uzbekistan decided to write down 400,000 hadiths, and this person decided. I really wished in my life that they never wrote anything. Nobody told you to write anything. Now you decided to write everything, and then some people gave you legitimacy, and now we sit down here, and our religion becomes reactive to what, oh, well, this person said this, and we left the Quran completely. And this is why it's very, very important for us to recognize there are certain historical details in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept in. So for example, the Battle of Badr, it's a historic event. We decide to look at it from the books of hadith and the books of history. Meanwhile, it's fully recorded in the Quran. The Battle of Uhud, which is the battle that talks about this type of personality. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that these people, even though they they explain or they submit to Islam in the outside, in the inside, they have a disease. It's very interesting about this word disease. The fact that it's a disease means that there is hope and there is a way for this disease to become cured. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ. So sometimes you could cure it, and sometimes the disease can overtake you. It's one of those two. But there's still hope. It's not like those people that took a stance. The people that took a stance, just wash your hands from them. We're done with them. So in the Battle of Uhud, the Prophet ﷺ, he gave certain instructions. He told them, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this is what you have to do. If you do this, we will be victorious. Now the Muslims lost that war. Why did they lose that war? They lost that war for one reason. It's for Islam to be victorious. Because imagine, there's a group of hypocrites. They have a message from the Prophet ﷺ. He says, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 commands. Follow these commands. They decided not to follow the Prophet. And now imagine that they won the war. What is the position of the hypocrites? He says, oh, this Muhammad, if we listen to him or we don't listen to him, we win anyways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to say, he's like, hey, you want to win and you want to be victorious. There is no winning without going through my Prophet. The fact that you decided to disobey him, now you have to lose. So now the hypocrites, maybe from this disease that they have, they could be like, because in Uhud we were more than the people in Badr. In Badr we won. Why? Because we listened to the Prophet. In Uhud we lost, even though we're more. You didn't listen to the Prophet. وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ. Obey Allah and obey His Messenger. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات الله على محمد.